Good day. My name is Luc Sala, and I'm talking with Norbert Specker about new media. And we have talked about it a lot in the past, haven't we?
We have, yes. Yeah.
Yes. You are the organizer of the Interactive Publishing Conference in Zurich.
Yep.
At which I've spoken, and I made some noise there, so to speak. Eh?
Yes, right. I think the last year you made this very strong comment on that you believe that the future lies in local media and in television or video with the net.
In local television, yes. And the year before, remember, I came and I cracked CD-ROMs.
That was, yeah, right. People like that a lot.
To make the point that CD-ROMs would become like newspapers. They're worth, a few dimes, and if they're old, they're worth practically nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So, media. Now, the theme of your conference has changed over the years. First, you were really into new media, that it was more internet.
Yeah.
What are you looking at now?
Well, I'm trying to find out right now. That's why I'm actually going around and talk to a lot of people. People like you, people like Jaron, I hope, this evening.
Jaron Lanier,
yeah,
the virtual reality
yeah,
guy.
Right. And also did some kind of a market research with people who have spoken at my conference previous years. And I think what we find is that it becomes a much less hyped affair. It becomes more like a business.
The first years people came there because there was the internet, and I saw hope in their eyes.
And fear.
And the second year I saw fear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is going to eat us. We,
right.
Newspaper people, journalists, publishers said, oh, what is going to happen?
Right, yeah. And I think now the idea comes through that it is just another business opportunity, and one could look at it a little bit more laid back and a little bit clearer and focus on what one does well and how one might migrate those strengths into the net.
And the message I picked up was very strong, that the people who have a niche market, who have a market like financial information or, trade magazines, they should move to the net because they have an audience that's willing to pay and willing to do something. But the mass market media that really cater for everybody, they have a much harder time because the net is not attractive and it's not what people want. It's far too interactive.
Maybe, my notion is we're still talking about those 5 or 10% of the people who have access to the net, and I think what I would like to do this year is pretend we're doing the conference in the year 2002, and then ask people, so what made your success in the last 5 years? Mm-hmm. So if you think yourself, now you're in the year 2002 and we have 50% of the people maybe with access to the net, so let's talk about those 40% that came to the net in the last 5 years. So what kind of people are they? What do they want to see? How do they use it?
But is it at all in the year 2002? Is it at all good to talk about the net anymore? Don't you think that we will have an integration of PC and TV, and that there will be basically one screen or many screens in the house, and it doesn't matter what you see, what you hear, what you type in comes to you, it's just there. The end user becomes indifferent to the transport medium, the distribution.
Maybe, yeah. I think in a way the net is not the definite term. I'm very sure about that, and I think, but in the end, everybody understood sooner or later the concept of television, and they knew what television was and what a fax machine was and things like that. So even if it's something else, there will be, I think. Also, in order to open up this market, it needs to have a metaphor or an instrument or something that people can understand, or that they have the feeling that they understand it. So we don't know yet what it is, and
well, I personally doubt that matters. That people are in the end interested in. Well, we could say
appliances.
Not in appliances, in what they get out of it.
Right.
An old adage in publishing is what's in it about for me. The viewer has to find something.
Yeah.
And what does he want? He wants entertainment. He wants a little bit of information, what the weather is, but stuff like that. But he wants you to get it easy. I believe that the notion of interactivity is overestimated. It's a technology possibility, as we call it, technology pushed in.
Yeah.
We say people are interactive, but most people who sit in front of a television are not interactive. They sit there. And I classify people really in on the level of interactivity. You could say you have 1 clickers, 2 clickers, 3 clickers, 4 clickers, 5 clickers, and maybe you have a professor who's a 10 level clicker.
Yeah.
Which means he clicks and clicks and clicks, and he wants to really know what's behind it. You have positive and you have negative clickers. And what we see as the zap culture is the negative clicking. You go away
from things.
You don't like this, you find something more interesting, and you click. So you have negative clicking, which goes maybe 1 or 2 levels deep, you just want to go. But we also know that for in television, you can't click 26, you can't zap 26 channels, you can zap about 15. That's so are your things that you normally zap that you know is something on it. But so this clicking idea is important to see how far people can go. And so it gives a new description of people. Is he a 7 clicker, yes or no?
Right.
What means is he interested to get into the level where data becomes information? Does he really know where to go? Most people are not. And we are overestimating the power of that thing. And of course, Philips, a company that pushed CDI, has learned the bad lesson that it doesn't work, that they can't sell interactivity. And they still believe that the computer is an interactive thing, but if you really go down to what people use computers for, you and I, we probably use it for a little bit of web surfing, lots of email, and text. Yeah, I haven't touched a database. Well, a little bit for subscribers, but I haven't touched a database or a spreadsheet for years. There's no spreadsheets on my machines. I have, of course, like everybody, gigabytes of shit of crazy programs that I will never use or looked at or downloaded from CD-ROMs that we all get in the mail for free now, with like stuff like that. It doesn't work. People are still using 5% of the capability of their machine. So interactivity, even on the level of the PC, is limited. We're not really going very deep. And in fact, with Java, this language is called JavaScript, we go back to the simple level of like WordStar or DBase, where you have the base functionality, what you need, and nothing else. At the moment it's necessary because Java is a downloaded code thing, so you download the code into your own computer every time you use it, so it can be like WordPerfect 5 gigabyte or Word or whatever. So you need a small program, so we go back to basic functionality. I think it's a very healthy trend, that we don't have 50 levels of menus in a program to do that. But so this interactivity is what I think is going to change. People will become aware that interactivity is a non-word, it's a non-existence. What we will see is that we trade it in for convenience. So, and then the word agents comes up. You have agents that pick out the information you want. In the morning you might want the news, local news, and then the price of the pizza, and then you're planning to go on holiday in 3 days in Portugal, so you want to see the weather there, and maybe the major news items, but you have a certain personal preference. And people think that will lead to personal programs. Well, it doesn't, because we're all very much alike, so 95% of the preferences, or in scientific terms, an 80-20% division of preferences will turn out that 80% of the people want about the same. And there is just not enough bandwidth, even not on cable system, to provide, we are here in Amsterdam, to provide 500,000 people all with an individual video channel through the internet. There's not enough bandwidth. So what you will get is multicast. You get, so to speak, channels on the internet. Right. So you have what you call an agent, which is just you sign up to the Zürcher Neue Zeitung, who provides you exactly with what you do. And they know best. Because they've been at the game for a long time, they know what the local people want. Yeah. Right. So I'm not so concerned with interactivity. I'm not so concerned with whether it's called the net or the TV or whatever. It will be a multi-channel, 500-channel delivery system. And what will probably happen, the main trend I see is 2 ways, is on one hand we see a macro trend whereby CNN grows bigger, or BBC grows bigger, just few really big guys that are all over the place all the time with good networks. There's like the major chains, they make money.
Do you think Microsoft will, in that content market, will play a role?
Well, there's a different view to look at Microsoft. It's about time to go down the drain. Yes? very few people very few companies or people in history have made this success story for 20 years or more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's about time they lose it. I think them buying web TV, them believing in this total integration of TV and PC is a little bit too early. If it's a defensive move, when we talk about web TV, it's one of the moves of Microsoft to fend off the competition, Netscape. But is it really an important step? If it's true what they say, which I don't believe, then they're stupid. Mm-hmm. Because web TV in the States didn't work, and there is a basic fundamental technical thing, and that is your home television is not really suited for internet. Mm-hmm. It wasn't in the days of the 64, because what we call bandwidth, you can't get 80 characters on the screen. Now we can do something about it, and these web TV set-top boxes, they use very standard fonts, and they kind of squeeze 60 characters on it, so it's kind of acceptable. But it doesn't give you the right colors, it doesn't give you the right fonts. Mm-hmm. So if you're an advertiser who very specifically wants this font on the screen, you don't get it on the web TV unit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So television and high bandwidth information content with letters is just not it. Mm-hmm. You want moving pictures on your TV, and you don't want text. Now, that's not going to happen, because, of course, if the net in 5 years' time, and we were talking about the year 2002, then I think the web or the net will be a delivery mechanism for video. So then you come to the point where your TV is adequate. But then it's not suitable for this research, lettering, stuff like that. If you've ever worked with television, you know how hard it is to get a good, clear lettering on there. Mm-hmm. So, and I think this is a basic mistake. And I'm amazed about it because, of course, Microsoft lives in an American dream, where they'll have this American thing called, it's an atrocity, it's called NTSC, which is an old standard, very much inferior to what PAL does. So how they even have a harder time getting this web on the TV. So I think it's a stupid thing, and then they're going to lose their pants over it. But we will see in the year 2002 how that turns out. There's another thing. There's a psychological structure. Bill Gates is having children. He's still the driving force. And I can feel with him, it's about time he learned a lesson or two. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 38. He started to get interested in getting married. Now I think he's 41. By the year 2002, he's 46, 47. I think he will gonna change a little bit, and he will make mistakes. No doubt. It's impossible for him to go on doing what he does, which is just all the time defending, picking out. He has a great talent to see what's happening, but I think his emphasis on the net is wrong. Mm-hmm. But he places his bets wisely, because he also hooked up with NBC, and he's into video. Huh?
Yeah. Can we talk for a moment about content? See, I have this notion that I think all the publishers still don't really know who they want to reach on the net. They don't know their target group, and they don't know in what capacity this target group they want to reach this target group. See, there's gamblers. We are gamblers. Yeah. Sometimes we are gamblers. Sometimes we are buyers. Sometimes we are information seekers. Sometimes we are just wanting to be entertained.
No. We are
all kinds of different things
in a very, very clear system. Now, modern psychology has not really covered that subject, but the old wisdom is there, and you realize that even the old Hindu way of looking at people, there you have 5 elements, ether, fire, water, as a classification of people and a classification of their mood. Have, I don't know, a melancholy, which was, you had basic types, and they knew about it, and that knowledge is still there. Some of it is hidden, but it's coming to the surface. One of the systems is called the Enneagram. It's a way of looking at people. Another system is called the Human Design System, which works a little bit more astrology-wise. Then there are systems that are springing forth from Scientology, and there are a lot around. Erhard, who came with the EST training, is now again in the market with something called landmark training. All that is based on a very good understanding of how we are programmed. In other words, how our defense system works. And our media behavior is very much related to that. I mean, all our behavior is related to our defense system. Our ego is not random. It works in a specific way. And so, as you say, there's moments that you are in this mode that you want to know. I am, so I know. Other days you are, I feel, so I am. I know, so I am. I touch, so I am. All different modes. But there is a certain logic to how we work. And I see that publishers and marketeers have no idea about it. They come with statistical Myers-Briggs statistics about what people do and shit like that. For me, knowing that there is this other body of knowledge, that's very, very stupid. But now this other body...
But if that is, why do newspapers work then? I mean...
Because the people... Well, let's take the Enneagram idea, which is an idea that you have 9 groups of people and that there is a dynamic. That you have 9 groups is not so important, but that you have a dynamic in yourself going from one state to another. So under stress, I become more withdrawn. Mm-hmm. And when I'm happy, I become more open. Now that's for me. For other people, it might work different. Under stress, they might start to run, to move. They exchange motion for emotion. And when they're happy, they might become like a judge. They're very, very black and white thinking. And these processes are known, but not very clear. But the reason why it works is that, especially larger newspapers, they have people of every group. Mm-hmm. And so when you see the success of a specific editor, he usually goes, you can, from one perspective, you can cater for about a third of the people. One group is your peers, and then you have 2 side groups that are similar. So if a good television boss knows that he has to play all kinds of audiences.
The question for me is that in a web publication, online publication, in any online venture, is it the same approach, or do I have? Does the media tell me that I have to approach those different people very specifically and to cater them to their very specific needs at given moments?
The same mechanism that works in 2 directions. One direction is macro media and the other is micro media. And they're both there in television. We have local, or we have target group television, I don't know, Sci-Fi Channel and stuff. And we have the BBC catering for everybody. Same goes for the internet. We have sites that are really for everybody. And of course Playboy started out to be for everybody because sex is like one of those things that kind of works. But there are other things that will evolve. And the funny thing is that the big corporation that tried to make those failed miserably. MCN, even CompuServe, all that didn't work. They wanted to be the big publishers, and the medium wasn't there because that is very clear that the internet medium came from the people who say, I am, so I know. I want to know, so I am. That's their old the thing they work on. And then they were trying to push the internet into the movement of I feel or I see. Well, you're more the marketing groups, the 30 people that are more into how it looks and stuff like that. And net looks shit. And the basic principle didn't work for them. So it didn't work. Some people have successful, but not largely. But I see in the future that you have, again, this macro media on the net, and you have micro media. People who say, we cater for this and that and that in depth. Mm-hmm. You want to know about stamps, we tell you about stamps. It's there. And again, within that group, you can say, oh, I only cater for 1/9 of the people or 1/1,000,000th of the people. But if the whole world is my market, it's big enough. Although that's not totally true, because we all realize that language differences and stuff like that is not really... you can say English is the universal language, but I don't think it works everywhere. Mm-mm. Yeah? No. In Holland it might work a little bit better because we speak a lot of English, but in 50 years' time, yes. In the year 2002, no. So you need local content. Also, the other thing is local is not global. You want to know what touches you, what's in it for me. And that's, again, the basic thing that every publisher knows. You have to make something what people want to read. They can do something with it. And in that case, the pizza joint around the corner is more important than the coffee machine at very, very far away places. You know, the Berkeley coffee machine example. You want to look at that? No, you want to know what's happening now.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about the first 3 weeks you're on the net. You want to know what NASA did.
Everything, yeah, of course.
When you wake up to yourself, you say, hey, well, what's your shit?
I didn't need that.
I don't need it.
Then Esther Dyson, just in her recent PC forum, I think she had a very interesting approach where she says that the metaphors we use for a phenomena, like for example the net. So whether we say it is a social space, so that means it's determined by communication, or whether we say it's a physical space, so we understand it best if we apply it to, it looks like a house and there's the door and there's a shopping cart, or whether it's a conceptual space, like a search engine, or whether it's a 3D space.
Well, we both know Esther. She's a bit, she's a head person. So,
but
would
the
she
question
say is it an emotional space?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, her notion was only that whatever you think, and I think, and the publishers think, and the people think out there, whatever their metaphor is, determines what kind of possibility they see in
it's
that.
The same as what Gerald Lanier says. He says we have to watch out. In the net, we have now tic-tac communications, which means half duplex. I send something, I get something back. You can have full duplex communication with a system like in virtual reality where you interact all the time. It's full duplex, you're there. That is going to be a very big influence on culture in the future. Kids might get into a discussion mode with people where they don't interact until they kind of see the green light coming up. Yeah. While other cultures it's quite acceptable to break into someone talking or not. Cultural differences. So a few of the technical things that are in the system yet decide what the outcome will be, how it's going to influence. And we need very deep thinkers, and Gerald Lanier is one of them, who see that and say, hey, let's pinpoint this and that, what is happening there? How will a color limitation of 16 colors in the end influence us? There's people, yesterday I had a discussion with Val Holland on color spaces. It's very important, and if we limit ourselves to 16 primary colors, that has no relationship with reality out there, which is mostly blended tones and very little bright red or bright green. And even if you go out in nature, you will see that is rare. So we are hypnotizing ourselves in a color space, and so you can go on audio too. What comes out of your computer is horrible sound most of the time. We buy big sound cards, but still the quality is, because of the limitations, not good. Does that mean people are going to be deaf? We know that what you hear influences your hearing capability. That we all filter out our mothers crying like, ah! After a while you don't hear that. The train at night, we filter that out. So are we going to filter out nuances? Again, yes, the medium is the message. I mean, this is not Esther Dyson, this is in fact Marshall McLuhan. There is that thing that the medium is going to be what it is. And that's why I say, do we really need this idea of an infinite data mountain? Do we need this Encyclopedia Globalia, this Encyclopedia Universalis, all knowledge on it? Because it isn't knowledge, it's data, it's a huge mountain. Do we need it? Now we are dreaming that we need it. The industry tells us we need it. Hey, if you don't have internet, you're nothing. If you don't have email, wow. No ISDN, wow. We want you to buy it because we give it status. Okay. But does it really give us something real? The next century, the next millennium is going to be about real things, not virtual things. Virtual things can be very real, like feelings, but it has to have a relationship to our direct lives. If you can't order stuffy, if you can't make the machine to change something in your real life, it doesn't happen.
Okay, let's go to the point I made at when I wrapped up the last conference, saying like the only consistent things over the last 3 years in the discussions has been email. As something that has always been there, not much discussed about really, but it has always been there, and everybody knows that's actually the only thing we really use, and we use a lot. If you think back at the time when fax exploded, there was a certain percentage, I would suppose, of people that it needed this kind of percentage of people, so then it was inevitable that everybody
Yeah,
had
but
a fax machine.
that's not totally true.
Is it?
No, it's not totally true.
It's not totally true?
No, because the need for fax machines in Japan was much higher than with us. As you realize, email doesn't work in Japanese characters. It's not so
right,
easy.
yeah.
So that was the reason it happened. So they started producing cheaply, and then they came cheaply on the market, and everybody said, well, for 1,000 guilders and so on. And then it spread in the business community. But it got over the threshold of acceptance in Japan before it got accepted with us.
But do you think, no, the point I want to make is, well, what do you think, I mean, how many people do have to have email?
Oh,
so
email is a very good
so
thing.
So that everybody has it.
No. Listen, you don't need all, because email works now. I get emails, so can you put it in an envelope or call the guy, stuff like that. My mother lives in Amsterdam, I can send you an email. Can you call her then? I'm fine and happy, stuff like that. So, well, email is old. Mail is old.
Yeah.
And I had a discussion this weekend. What is the real fundamental difference between Paul writing to, the Essenes or whatever, all these guys in the Bible, writing letters about their conduct or whatever. He had a network all over the world where he sent stuff, and they took it very primitive in our eyes, but it was the same principle. Mm-hmm. And he got letters back, and he said, yeah, well, I've heard that there's trouble there, and you should all do this and that. There's nothing new there.
No.
The only thing that has changed is the pace.
Mm-hmm.
It goes very quickly now. And any technical guy can tell you that any system where that happens, you have to look at the feedback loop. The feedback loop is that something comes back. I say something, I say, Norbert, you're getting bold. And you say, no, I don't. And within 2 minutes we're fighting.
I want to get bold.
Oh, fine. Whatever, but it has a danger. Yeah. And that is called oscillation. And in a technical system, you really have to understand this concept of feedback, that if the time gets too short or the signal gets too big, there is the danger that it gets... that it rolls off.
Overheats.
Yeah, it overheats. That's a good word. Oscillates. It gets out of hand. It becomes unstable. And there are moments that I think that electronic media are near that point for some things, like electronic democracy. If you start voting on stuff, and we see that on television, and the worst case is, of course, an American president making a television speech, and while he's doing, they're polling the people, and he's changing the whole course of his speech while he's doing it. Yeah, it's like a guy saying left, 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 I want more left, I want more this subject. So he starts listening to that. Now, in Germany, there were very good examples of people who did that live for an audience, where that feedback brought them to, ecstatic moments, like with Nazi Deutschland. But there is that danger. So if you make the feedback loop too short, there's a danger. So we have to watch out, which we can do by legal ways. A good example there is, for instance, the stock market, which went out of control.
Because it went too fast.
So they say we put a damper on it, which is just a technical term to say, hey, we give it 5 minutes or 5 hours rest period. So the feedback, we have to look at that.
Well, when I did this research with those people on the hot topics for this fall, the only thing that really stuck out, I mean, basically all the people had different hot topics, right? The only one of the few topics that really stuck out was the push mechanism.
Fine, listen, it's an old story. When newspapers developed, after a while we got what they call direct mail, yes? And we lived through that. There was a period, I think in the 80s, direct mail was it. And even still you get all these mailbags and stuff. Now, push media are the same as direct mail. It's a natural phase in a medium that doesn't work. Yeah? If you don't want to read it at free will, it's being pushed upon you. So now we get the stage where email becomes, you will have push mail, as they call it, with pictures and video, and it will be really pushed upon. And people won't read it if they don't want to read it. So you can't force feed people information. That's the funny thing. You can force feed them data, but it never becomes information. They're never going to buy your car and do that stuff. So it's more what I feel is that the world is looking around, what next? It doesn't work. Remember 2 years ago, and I said, I think I had a funny head, I said, I'm the black prophet of the internet, the net is dead, it won't work. And everybody said, this guy is crazy. And in your forums, half of the people said, don't get this guy back, he is totally off. How can he say that the net as a mass medium has no future? A year later, I was asked back, I came with my story about video, and then people said, yeah, but he was right. The net as a mass medium, people beginning to see that it doesn't happen, that it's not a Joe Sixpack medium. I'm saying based on that, because it is not. that general mass audience medium yet. And again, in 5 years' time, it will be as a video delivery medium. But I have this experience from my own internet cafe, which we're here, and I have 8,000 pages on the net, and I have a net magazine, and I have thousands of. I think we distributed more than 80,000 complete internet packages. I have internet starter books. I mean, I know what I'm talking about, and the feedback is forget about it as a mass medium. It's a limited medium. It is great for research. Email is great for business. But Jesus Christ, do you really think that you want to email with your friends in America that you have never seen and will never see? There's a limitation there. Again, for some people, a small group of the population has the psychological makeup to do that. I usually get into big fights with them, and I do that on a thing on a forum, and someone says, yes, but I like that. I have a virtual relationship for 2 years. Then I point out to them that means they probably don't like to be touched, that there's a little fear there, and sometimes they start screaming at me, that I'm a pervert because I want to touch, and that's their fear, so they like to do this. But really, in general, it doesn't work. You're not going to have deep friendships over the internet as a person who is used to just talking and drinking and going out. If you're like that, and there are those people, fine. But again, we're talking mass markets, we're talking where do you as a newspaper go for. There are newspapers for sadomasochists, and that's fine. Limited
like
group,
special interest. Well, yeah.
But the general thing is it. So I don't believe push is, it's going to be there like direct mail. And if you want to make money now, you develop push programs to do it. Great. Pointcast, Microsoft put money all there. Netscape is fighting to get the best push technology. Is it really important? Is it really news? No, it's not. There is another trend though that I think is important, and that is the micro trend. And I call this micro media. I'm writing a book about it. In fact, the book is on the net already. Micromedia, the small local media, small target group, made on a totally different economic basis, much smaller, targeted at a much smaller group. El Cheapo TV, TV nach Maß, measured TV, small scale stuff. If you have 50 people in town that are interested in stamp collection or yoga or whatever, you can make a program for them. But you have to realize that you have only 50 subscribers or people that want to respond to the advertising about the yoga things, or the stamps. So make media that fit the demand. Don't push it. Let the market decide what it wants. And local media with cable, where we go from 5 to 50 to 500 channels, and now we will have the internet offering another digital 200, 500, whatever, 1,000 channels. There's a limit to that. But okay, lots of channels. You need content to make it. We will see more diverse content, more targeted, generally more quiet. This zap idea from MTV is just to keep everybody happy within their time. That, I'm not going to respond now. Okay, hey, there's something nice again. It's like really metered out to those 9 groups or 1,000 different personality types to keep them all happy. If you let go of that and you say, I only want to make for the people that you can do longer interviews.
Do you think, that's a good question. Like in the year 2002, I always liked also that the concept of the slow television programs. And do you think that, the people in the year 2002, they will watch slow time television, slow motion television?
Norbert, I always say when you come to your conferences, don't notice what I say, notice what I do. And I have a tendency to do what I preach. So for 2 years now, I've seen that the net, 3 years, the net isn't it, so I went into local television. And the idea is content. And I believe that there is a future. So, for instance, I have here a disc. It's called the Image Banker Picture and Video Archives Content Libraries.
What is on there?
What is on there is my production over the past year, which is about 200 hours of television interviews, like this one.
200 hours?
Yeah, well, they're not on there. The description and the pictures are on it, but not the live video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a reason why DVD in that respect, but that's a very technical thing, is totally inadequate for video archives. Because the coding is totally wrong. You can use it to play it, but not to archive it. very quickly. On the MPEG coding, it's a dynamic coding, which means you can't mix every moment of time. You need what they call motion JPEG to do that. So there's a different story. Okay. So for that reason, DVD is not a good medium. I mean, that's a real disadvantage. It could have had a future as a technical content library medium, but it doesn't. They just made the wrong choice there. It has some other good application. But anyway, what's on this is a database where you can look in my archives, which is also on the net. You can type in netinfo.nl and then you find my video archives. You can look at the pictures. We have about 200 hours of what they call public domain. And then we touch the subject of copyright, which is different in the States. And here's a really important thing. But anyway, public domain, old black and white classics. Really the first films that are out of copyright because the makers died or something. There is some material there, and backgrounds. So basically, I think that we are going to have a new generation of video, and video being also on the net or whatever, and I think we need tools for that. And one of my companies is actually making those tools in the form of background, Hawaii beaches and whatever, digitized form, so that the local program maker who wants to make a promotion for, I don't know, nice bedding or whatever, can use this beautiful background, put in the name and the product of the local guy and make it.
Yeah.
Also on there is about 150 hours of interviews. Slow interviews. Yeah. But with people that are alive now, that happen to be in Amsterdam or I visited them. I'm sure that, like this week, we had Allen Ginsberg who died. So we made a 1.5 hour program about Allen Ginsberg. Yeah, okay, it's the appropriate week. But in 5 years' time, there's a school, there's a university that says, okay, this month all of us are going to read Allen Ginsberg. Yeah? They will go to the net and they'll find, hey, there's a man in Amsterdam who has an interview with the guy who first published Plutonium Ode, which was for some people an important ecological event. It had something to do with pollution and plutonium, whatever. In those days. Anyway, they'll find it. And then there is this interview with the guy.
Original, like in the year 2002. Actually, you see yourself kind of...
Well, I know Bill Gates saw it a few years ago too, but like Bill, I've seen this 5 years ago. I started an image banking company called MindLive, which is in operation now for about 5.5 years. We always worked on CD-ROMs, and like Bill, but he does it on a big scale, I try to get real content, copyright free, the real stuff that's mine I can sell. And I don't think I'm going to sell it for $5,000 an hour. I'm going to sell it for like $5 an hour. Because that student that wants to read it has a little money. Maybe he has only 12 e-cash cents or whatever. But anyway, if there's enough students. So I put my money where my mouth is. I say, yes, we need to develop tools. And there's many more tools in the technical department. And I started a small television operation. I have a license for commercial television in the Netherlands. And I make 5 hours of television a week, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
And we make it basically alone with one cameraman or even a little device that helps me to do it alone. And it works. And I make world-class programs. We have done interviews with anybody from the Dalai Lama to Patti Smith to Philip Glass to Tim Leary, whatever. And I must say, some of these people die, and then it becomes a little bit more valuable because then it's historic material. It's an example of what to do, where that business might go, where local newspaper with their archives should really watch out what they do with the material, how they make it accessible. The net is a good tool for that.
I think the notion that content that in the year 2002 nobody will talk about technology anymore. I mean, that would be a possible vision, wouldn't it? And
yeah, that's a reason why I put this on these tapes. It's called DV, 36 gigabyte or whatever, and much better than all the discs, much better quality. It's digital. I can edit it, so this is 20 times as efficient as Betacam SP, and it has about the same quality. Oh, and then I have to tell you something. One of the technology that everybody overlooks is line doublers. A line doubler is a device which, out of a crappy picture, a bad picture, makes a better picture. It increases the number of lines on your television. You need special television to do it, but it's a technology that's really going to be important in the coming years. It means that with enough processing power, you can take a very old bad program and put it on the screen of a cinema and make it, cinema quality.
So it kind of just calculates the lines that the
in between and so
between.
and at the moment you have very simple line doublers, but we will have line quadruplers and we will have stuff so that you can get, as the screens get better, as you get 5,000 line wall filling screens, we will have the thing. And it is a matter of processing power to figure out, this is a line that we want black, or you understand. It's a technical processing thing.
Okay, since we're still on this technical question, I want to bounce off something. As with Betamax and VHS, it is not necessarily the best technology
that wins.
Wins.
I know.
So my pet theory is that we will reach a point. Okay, now we just assume that it is a mass market. After we assume that the net is a mass market in some form, it's now the theory would be, if that critical mass is reached, where it takes off, whatever technology will be in place right then and there will be the technology that carries on through for the next 10
and
or
it will
20
only
years.
be replaced.
And that won't be necessarily the best technology.
No, and it can only be replaced if a tenfold improvement comes around.
That's right, but that would be like a difference like between television and internet or something like that.
Yeah, or we've seen that any tryout to get high definition TV on the screen doesn't work. This is a pathetic PAL Plus or whatever, it doesn't work because the increasing quality is 50% or 30%, whatever. It's not enough. Yeah. You need, it's an old Japanese business law to say, don't enter any new market unless you have at the start a tenfold advantage over the old technology.
Okay.
So for instance, this DV, when you compare it only with the old Betacam SP tapes, it's about,
smaller?
Smaller. It's 5%. It's twice as fast. It's half the price. If you all add it up, it's about 30% better. Mm-hmm. There's only one problem, is that Sony doesn't really push it, and that it's not a problem. And where the Americans are, they have a disadvantage with their NTSC standard because DV in America didn't work. Mm-hmm. They only sold 50,000 cameras, and it's really a bummer. Which means that they have a disadvantage at the moment, and that Europe, on the level of local television and local media that I'm really pushing, has an advantage. We have better base material, we have better technology, we also have a better feeling for roots, we have more history, more historic buildings, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So we really could do something. Mm-hmm. But in 5 years' time, or in the year 2002 maybe, I think the American government finally has to come to the conclusion to do away with this shit, put it away, NTSC, and make the big move. And then Europe is going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. So they must make a jump, a tenfold jump, somewhere in the next 5 years. It has been tried with high definition television digital, but they did it in such a stupid way that everybody's going to take NTC to the digital domain, but not with improved quality. Because it's so easy, then you just digitize it. The idea was to digitize it and improve the quality 3 times. Mm-hmm. But that would mean the old content isn't there. But somewhere along the line they have to make the decision, and I think that again line doublers there, which would allow to upgrade old material, are going to be the technology. If anybody wants to invest money, I would say go to companies like Ferrugia, and companies that make line doubling technology, both mathematical constructions, because it's a lot of mathematics to work out what those 5, it's a little bunch of dots that you have to decide what is the missing one. Mm-hmm. You have many algorithms for that. Yeah. Those need to be found out. We know a lot about it, but this is, and then you need very fast processors to do that on the fly and so on. It's happening. I think it's a major technology break, and will help to make this step to television quality that really can be, like wall size. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely unthinkable that people would pay 10,000 marks or whatever for a wall size TV with the same quality, PAL or NTSC, even worse, material. Mm-hmm. If you even gonna put internet stuff on the wall on that size, it doesn't look good. The letters don't look good. So you need technology for line doubling.
Yeah, okay. And, to make it look better.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we have.
We've covered the world again.
We've covered the world again. We made the round. I think for me at the moment that's that has been very, very interesting. And I think I'm going to be very interested in what do you think what Mr. Lanier will tell us this evening.
The funny thing was last night he tried to give a concert and all the equipment failed. And whether that's Hale Bob, the comet that happens to be around, or something else, I don't know. It's kind of funny to see always, not only Gerald Lanier has this problem, but I've seen Bill Gates really go wrong there. And lately I see that if he gives a really important presentation, they have 35mm cameras and projectors in the back that do it. No longer, no computer shit, they just prepare it so that the quality is excellent. Because you understand, I mean, Bill Gates is, he's the richest man in the world, but he can't make a computer demonstration on the stage for 5,000 people go absolutely flawlessly. Yeah? Irony.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
This was nice.
Yeah, thank you.